Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 336 once again for episode 150. Is this 57 of the 815 exchange? I have to check this actually. 157 of the 815 exchange. It is now, this is technically, I believe, the 2-year or 3-year anniversary, by the way, of this channel. So yeah, much appreciated. Love you guys. Thank you for everything so far. We've accomplished a lot this year in terms of this channel, this past year. So yeah, super duper duper appreciative. But yeah, 157 episodes. We got plenty to talk about as always today. We got combat sports, of course. We got to talk Jake versus Nate. We've got to talk about the Women's World Cup. We got to talk about conference realignment in the Roundup. So, as always, timestamps are provided in the description below because I know some of you cannot wait if you have been around this channel for any amount of time. And you have seen me rant and go on about conference realignment, then this is the episode for you. You might skip right ahead to this Roundup after I finish introing this because I have plenty to say. I have plenty to say. Winning Time is also back in entertainment, so we'll talk about that. But yes, as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I got the mic right here that makes me feel like an actual podcaster. But yes, as I said, and as we always start, combat sports, the fight game. And of course, today, this week in the fight game, I have to speak about the main event of the fight game this week. And it was a hell of a, I'm not going to lie, it was a hell of a come down from watching Bud Crawford in The Monster this past week. I mean, a hell of a come down. A hell of a come down. Because watching that Jake Paul Nate Diaz fight it was reasonably entertaining. But oh my goodness, it was so frustrating. Now, I get Nate is a zombie. For those that don't know already, Jake won by unanimous decision. But it was borderline embarrassing. I'm not going to lie. Nate can't box. He can't. I mean, I heard everybody saying, yo, Nate trained. Listen, how many times do we have to see Jake versus the MMA fighters for y'all to get, there's a difference. There's a stark difference between training for boxing in MMA and a boxer. Like, it is a stark difference. Just because you train boxing and you might have hands in MMA does not always mean that's going to translate directly. Your striking is not always going to translate into boxing. It's a different sport. So, I was not surprised, as I told y'all last week, I was not surprised to see Jake win. I said Jake was going to win. I was not surprised to see Jake win by decision. But Jake should have knocked Nate Diaz out. Now I get it. Nate has this mythological, ridiculous, he's a zombie. For all intents and purposes, Nate is a zombie. Okay? He can take ridiculous amounts of damage. He is undefeated so far in his life against CTE, even though I feel like it's going to come roaring back in a few years, if not already. Okay? He can take a ridiculous amount. He has a legendary chin. A legendary chin. Nate Diaz just does not get knocked out. Like I said, like they said, a fight to the death, Nate might win. But for all intents and purposes, if Jake was a boxer, or as good of a boxer as he should be, maybe, or you might wish he would be, he should have knocked out Nate Diaz. Nate does not have great defense. He left his chin open. He could have countered him numerous times. For some reason, by the way, fight should have been as close as it was. It was reasonably close, by the way. Jake won, but it was reasonably close. Should have been that close. Jake got tired, and then he had these bad tendencies of he would try to fight Nate inside, and that is the only way Nate could have any type of success in this fight. If Jake sits there, jabs, and tags him, and circles him the entire match, he might KO him off damage, maybe not, or it's a very comfortable win. Instead of what happened. Instead, he tried to get in the clinch. He did all this, got himself, shook up, got himself rocked a couple times. So yeah, it was just a performance that just was lacking. It was truly lacking, and yeah, it was just a disappointing. I'm not gonna lie, it was a very disappointing performance from Jake. But Nate, honestly a win. It is a moral victory. He is the king of moral victories. He didn't get knocked out. That's all that really matters. He got the little chokehold. They said they might run it back at MMA, PFL. So I think Nate beats Jake in that scenario. Because I don't think Jake is going to... I mean, we'll see. But I'd still take Nate because the experience factor, once again, it's just different levels to this. Even at Nate's current status, it's just different levels to this. I would pick Nate in that fight. We'll see what happens. Jake has a lot of decision-making to go from here, but not a great performance and a moral victory once again for Nate, which is honestly the most likely outcome of this entire scenario. UFC did have an event this week. They had UFC Nashville. Cory Sandahagen headlined at a catchweight against Rob Font. And boy, oh boy, did Cory look good. He looked good. I mean, UD's Rob, it was, just a wrestling... There was a lot of great wrestling on this UFC card. Sometimes there's strikers. The major cards we've had have been very explosive cards. This was just a grinders, wrestlers card. Okay, Sandahagen wrestled Font to the ground and just dominated from there, controlled the entire fight, and did a great job. He's next in line, which I feel like we've said a lot about the Sandman, but he should be next in line at 135. Of course, we'll see what happens, what Ankle Dana decides, but after beating Font like that, I think he deserves it. Tatiana Suarez as well did a great job at strawweight. Looks like she's an emerging contender. She's undefeated. She subs Jess Andrade, who I feel like we talk about fighting every other. Can somebody give me an actual count on how many times Jessica Andrade has fought this year? It's got to be something ridiculous. So when Kevin Holland fought, 6, 7 times? Or whatever, or 5 times in a year? Andrade is on that type. And they haven't all been good results, by the way. I think she might be on a losing streak. But yeah, Suarez subs her in round 2. Very impressive performance. Looks like another contender for Weili at strawweight, which may or may not be the best women's MMA division at the UFC currently. So, we will see. But yeah, shout out to Suarez, shout out to Sandahagen. Jake, you know what? Shout out to Jake. Because he got the win and he made a bunch of money. But still, should have been a better performance, my boy. Should have been a better performance. MLB, baseball. Also known as Shohei Ohtani did something crazy this week. Let's talk about it. We had another Tungsten O'Doyle game on, Thursday against the Mariners. Of course, Ohtani hit number 40 in this game. 40th home run. Still leads. Matt Olson one behind. Shout out to Matt Olson. Needs to be in MVP conversations if he is not already in the NL. But he hit number 40. He went 2 for 2. 2 walks. So really, he made it on base all 4 times he was at bat in this game. I think he got a stolen base as well. He had to stop pitching because of cramps after going 4 scoreless with 4 Ks. All of that in one game. A home run, a stolen base, 2 walks, 100%, 1,000 OBP, on base percentage. A 1,000 in this game. 4 for 4. 4 Ks, 4 innings. And they still lost. They still lost. After he did all of that, they still lost. I got nothing for the Angels. They lost yesterday, by the way. Puts them under 500. After deciding to keep Ohtani at the trade deadline, listen, it's a disaster. Okay, it's a disaster in Anaheim. They're going to botch having the 2 best players in the world at the same time. It's honestly quite impressive. But as a Yankees fan, even though I'm repping them, I can't really say too much because we haven't been too great either. But, yeah, just grimmer days. But the big thing in baseball this week was not Shohei Ohtani. For the first time, was not Shohei. Instead, it was that White Sox Guardians brawl that you have probably seen a million times on your social feed of whatever app you're on. Hell, even Threads. It was probably on Tumblr, okay? Tim Anderson, by the way, former All-Star, having the worst, just a remarkably bad season. Couldn't hit a home run until 2 weeks ago. He's not hitting well for average. He's having baby mama drama. It's just been a bad year for Tim Anderson. And boy, oh boy, did it get worse this week. Jose Ramirez slides in. He doesn't like the tag from Anderson. Anderson says, let's fight then. And boy, oh boy, did a brawl ensue. And Tim Anderson got knocked out. The best punch of the week was not from the Jake Paul, Nick Diaz, or I almost said Nate Diaz fight. It wasn't. No, it was from Jose Ramirez putting that right cross on Tim Anderson's chin and putting him down. Put him down. Tim was still recovering as they tried to take him off of the field. I mean, just a bad look. From a fight you started. A fight you started and you didn't finish and got knocked out on national television in front of all the... It was just in front of everybody. You got KO'd. It's just been a sad year for Tim Anderson. He went on Twitter, you know, as everybody does after they take a major L on Twitter. You can take it one or two ways. Make fun of yourself, or you can swallow in just kind of the L. And he's swallowing in the L. So, good luck to Tim Anderson, because it's not... 2023 has not been his year, and it just was not his year at all. And it was not his week at all. Shout out to Jose Ramirez. Great right cross, though. Great right cross. Saw the boxing gloves you got from your agent. So, yeah. Guardians, by the way, I believe won the series as well. So, just not a great week for not a great week for Chicago. Not a great week. Unless you're Cubs. The Cubs are on fire, by the way. Entertainment. Winning time is back. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm not going to lie. At the beginning of the episode, I was like, okay, are we about to do a time jump all the way to 1984? Which we did. But then it went back to 1981, which I liked because I didn't want them to skip all that. So, Magic is still hoeing, okay? Fucking everything in sight. It's disturbing, okay? And you can honestly see, even though it's just not a completely factual interpretation of what happened with the Lakers, of course, got the comedy factor. But it's just, he's effing everything, bro. It's so clear that he's going to catch it, okay? That's going to be a very interesting episode when they get to it, because, yeah, it's not going to be a surprise. I mean, everything that walks. During rehab, the opening of the show, all of it, all right? Magic was wilding, okay? He has the kid on Cookie, but he's begging to get Cookie back. Cookie's like, I don't know, you just had a kid on me, blah, blah, blah. We're seeing what's going to happen. Of course, we all know how that story ends up, and they get back together and get married. But, for the sake of the show, still very interesting. The System, all right? The System with Pat Riley and Paul Westhead. Again, seeing how that's incorporated. Kareem, his storylines. Just had the kid learning to be a partner, learning to kind of fall back a little bit, seeing how that goes. And, of course, the Celtics and the Sixers will be taking a much more prominent role. The Sixers, of course, with, if you don't know, they're going to play the Lakers in the NBA Finals the upcoming seasons. And the Celtics, of course, just drafted Parrish and McHale, or acquired them. And, of course, with Larry Bird already there, it's going to be the emergence of them as a major rival for the Lakers. So, yes, a great setup to this season in 1981. Magic's injured, still hoeing, but trying to overcome those kind of mental issues. Kareem, and Pat and Paul, we're back. Episode 1, very, very good. And, of course, the Bus Family is the Bus Family. Winning time, very, very good. Go watch it. Max is not telling me to do that, but go watch it anyway. Angel in the Marble, Stormzy, is the only really music I want to talk about this week, which is a nice kind of breather after we had Utopia and we've had all the albums I've talked about this past couple weeks, all of the songs. So we were due for a little bit of a breather, especially with For All the Dogs imminently seemingly on the way, potentially this week, since everybody has moved off the next 2 weeks, which usually is a sign that, hey, he's got to move off my release date, huh? You know, that the game is about to be in disarray. Okay? I'm not going to say it's coming. Don't quote me. I don't want to be one of them. Don't quote me as your source on Twitter. That, hey, Ocho said For All the Dogs is coming. Don't do that. I'm just saying it's a possibility. But Stormzy dropped Angel in the Marble. Again, he's been on a great singles run. I don't know if he has a project coming. It feels like that. But, yeah, he's been on a tremendous feature run. And, yeah, I very, very much enjoyed all the Stormzy stuff recently. So, yeah. Angel in the Marble, if you're into UK rap, besides David Cinch, go check out Storm's Angel in the Marble. Another really, really good track. If he's got an album coming, this is everything he's dropping goes very, very well. He's been very active. So, yeah. Nice to see Stormzy back in the game. But that is entertainment. All right, ladies and gentlemen. You know what time it is. Women's World Cup. Woo! Woo! Okay. Before I talk about America, because don't worry, we're going to talk about the women's national team. We are going to talk about the United States women's national team. Before I get there, let's recap everything else that happened chronologically. Spain took on Switzerland and beat the brakes off. I mean, they needed to get their leg back. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people think Japan and Spain is what the... I think they have to play each other, by the way, before the World Cup final. So I don't even know if that can happen. But, anyways, they needed to get their leg back after Japan embarrassed them last week. I believe we talked about that last week. Spain embarrassed them, yeah. Got embarrassed by Japan. Japan beat the brakes off them. Okay? They needed to get their leg back. They got their leg back in full versus Switzerland. Boy, oh boy. Bonmati is one of the best women's players on God's green earth. Yeah, brace in this game. I think she might have had a sister or two as well. They dominated the shots on goal 10-1. The shots, period, was much more. But I didn't even need to emphasize that one. But, yeah, I think they had around 20 shots in this game. Spain did. So, yeah, just dominated the Swiss. 10-1 on shots on goal. They had 70% possession. Just a dominant game from Spain. They needed this. They needed this to put back out to everybody that, hey, we're Spain. We're one of the favorites to win this thing. Let's not forget, we slipped up, got hammered by Japan, but we are still here. We are still contenders. Putellas still not fully back, but she's still a factor. In Spain overall, I mean, even similar to Australia, we know without their best player, they've still had players that have stepped up and looked really, really well. So, Spain, contenders again, they beat the brakes off of Switzerland. They kick off the round of 16. Speaking of that Japanese team, they did the same thing to essentially an Ada Herg. It just never worked out for Norway. It just never. This is essentially their golden generation, and it just never worked out. With CGH and Ada, it just never worked out. Sucks to say, but it never did. All the talent, but it just never worked. Never ever worked in terms of injuries or whatever it was or form. It just never worked out. Anyways, they did about everything you could against Japan to try to stop them. However, Japan is currently on a different plane of existence. Okay, the Japanese team is not, they can't be effed with right now. They cannot be effed with. They are it right now. They are the favorites. And I don't think it's really... You can have a little bit of a discussion, but they are pretty clear-cut favorites with the way they've played. I mean, they are putting, once again, another week of me talking about the Women's World Cup with Japan against another opponent, and it's another counter-attacking exhibition. 3-1, they get it done versus Norway. Miyazawa, who I believe leads the Golden Boot currently, 5th goal. And yeah, just the counter. It's beautiful to watch because I love counter-attacking football. Because, like I said last week, it's how I play on FIFA. And I play FIFA quite a bit. So I love it. It's kind of like I'm playing. But yeah, Japan, they look different. Different gravy currently. Netherlands takes out South Africa 2-0. Pretty competitive game. They'll be playing Spain next. So Norway versus Spain here in the quarterfinals. But yeah, Netherlands... it was very competitive, but they were just better, more efficient. Roord scored her 4th. Van de Donk, however, got another yellow card, so she will be out for Spain. So that's a pretty significant loss for the Netherlands. Not that I would have picked them anyway. But, yeah, Netherlands, they get it done for South Africa. All right. Here's what you've been waiting for. Okay. Sweden and the U.S. Now, I said we were going to get hammered by Sweden, which we didn't, so I was wrong, okay? We actually, once again, as the story of this World Cup has been, should have won this game. We were the better team, once again. I don't think there's been a game in which we haven't played technically better, but just have not gotten the result. The story of this team. All of the talent, none of the results. We did not score for the second straight game. This one to penalties. Sophia Smith, the great Sophia Smith, the much hyped Sophia, the Golden Boot favorite, by the way, heading into this tournament, considered one of the best players on the planet, Sophia Smith, reigning defending U.S. Women's Player of the Year. Sophia Smith, reigning defending NWSL MVP, Sophia Smith. I think before the World Cup, actually, leading scorer currently in the NWSL, or very, very close, Sophia Smith. The next big thing, the next superstar, had a chance to put the game away and put us through to the quarterfinal against Japan. She skied it. Megan Rapinoe, up at bat. Washed, by the way. I love Pino. I do. I love what she stood for. I love Pino, okay? I think Pino, I think a lot of people who do not like Pino and what she represents have taken a very, opportune time with her being down with what happened in this game to take a lot of shots, which really isn't surprising, because they think she hates our country, which is not true. But anyways, Megan Rapinoe, who had no business, as much as I love Pino, no business being at this World Cup. Washed. Washed more than the dishes. I said it last week. Washed more than clothes. Skies it. One last chance. Kelly O'Hara, who essentially was the coach because Vlatko didn't do a great job in managing. A lot of people called for KOH to play a lot more in this tournament. Off the post. And the USA is out of the World Cup. After a millimeter. Alyssa Nair saved everything. She was great. She was great in this game. She scored a penalty in this game. Has to make a double save. It sneaks in by a millimeter. A literal millimeter. And that is how the tournament ends. 3 straight penalty misses. And it's just an unfortunate VAR. Unfortunate situation. That is how it ends. Which I honestly couldn't find any way more fitting for USA to lose than on penalties. I mean, it just an absolute heartbreak. There was no more way fitting for this team who not at any point, not even when we were beating Vietnam, looked any point like the #1 team in the world that we were listed at. Did not look like the favorites on the betting odds. Definitely did not look like World Cup winners. Hell, we didn't look like getting out of the knockout stage for most of this tournament, so that was a gift in itself, so I was not surprised. I was just surprised we kept it this competitive. I was happy, but boy oh boy did I know what was going to happen as soon as this got to penalties. Positives. Okay? Trinity Rodman was great. Deserved a goal and an assist in this game. She was great. Trin was great. Lynn Williams, who came in for her, was maybe not as good as Trin, but still very, very good. Shout out to Lynn. She's been great in the NWSL as well. Naomi Girma was fantastic all tournament long. Might be the best center back in the world. Okay? She's here for the long term. Her and Trin going to be here for a while. Part of that young core we've got now with her. Sophia Smith, who, listen. I still love Sophia. I still think she's going to be a very, very good player. I think we anointed her prematurely because it's really simple. Any player that you give that type of hype or you call the next one or the great one who is supposed to be the best in class, in football, those players show up when it matters. No matter how bad the games before or the game they played, when it matters, they showed up. When men's side, Ronaldo showed up. Messi, as we're going to talk about in this episode, showed up. Current generation, Mbappe, World Cup final, was not great. Those first 80 minutes was not great. Not completely his fault. Argentina, fair play, did a really good job. Was not great. But when it mattered, when he went up to the spot for that first penalty, he buried it. Gave him hope. Then the legendary volley kept him in the game. Saved the game. Did it 4 times. Showed up when it mattered. Messi, same game. Showed up when it mattered. Women's side. Players we've had before. Won back. Showed up when it mattered. Mia Hamm, the GOAT. Showed up when it mattered. All the great ones show up when it matters. Sophia, at least this time around, did not show up when it matters. So I think we need to slow down the hype on Sophia Smith, calling her the next great one, all of this stuff, because I think that still remains to be proven. Now, I hope this, this hurt feels this and feels the young generation. Alyssa, who didn't really get to play too much. Ashley Sanchez, who didn't get to play at all. Trin, Naomi, Emily Fox, who was very good in this game as well. I hope and would like for it to motivate them to continue to push this thing, because we have still the brightest future, I think, of any, nation, women's soccer-wise. But, changes need to be made. Vlatko cannot be here. Cannot be the manager. He's not the guy. Even though much better tactics this time around against Sweden. But he is not the guy. And yeah, it's the old guard's time. They just don't got it anymore. Crystal Dunn, much better against Sweden. Didn't have a great tournament. Alex Morgan had her worst World Cup tournament. Did not look great. Julie Ertz, who was great, retired. And Megan Rapinoe, of course, is washed. So it's time. It's the next generation's time. Give them the reins. Hopefully they use this as fuel and, they go into greater things. But I'm not surprised we lost to Sweden. It was heartbreaking the way we lost to Sweden, but I was not surprised. And yeah, it wasn't great. I have to give a shout out though to Zakaria Musovic, who was Sweden's keeper, because she was, one of the best performances of the entire World Cup. She had 11 saves, of course. She got it done in penalties as well. So yeah, shout out to Musovic. She was phenomenal. Honestly, bar maybe, Trin, the best player on the field, it felt like. And she's the backup goalie for Chelsea. So yeah, shout out to her. Sweden moves on. They'll take on Japan. But yeah, USA got what they deserved. And that's just the only way you can say it. We got what we deserved. We earned a round of 16. We didn't earn a world. We didn't play that well. We earned a round of 16 heartbreak. That is what this team earned. We'll see what happens, but it really does feel feel like a waste with all of the talent we had of what could have been. However, still some other nations going through heartbreak. England, who advanced. They also went 0-0 against Nigeria. Went to penalties. They got the win. They got it done. But Lauren James, who everybody, once again, similar to Sophia Smith, was anointing as the next one, the next great player. Reece James' sister. She can play with the guys. LJ, the new number 7. She's the one. She's the one that stepped and got a red card and put herself out of the World Cup, I believe. Because I believe that was for violent content, which should be 3 games, which is the rest of the tournament since England advanced. Just an idiotic decision. I get it. Frustration. Okay. Alozie had done a great job on her. Nigeria as a whole had done a great job defensively against her. A frustration. You cannot, with all of the cameras, you cannot step on another player. You just cannot do it. You cannot intentionally step on a player. First off, it's classless. And second, it's stupid. Okay? It was a egregious, dumb decision from a fantastic talent, a fantastic player who is better than this. Absolutely better than this. But it's classic England number 7. We've seen Rooney do it. We saw Beckham famously do it. It's just, you cannot let that frustration get to you. Lauren, let it get to her. This could have cost them the game. If they hadn't held on, made it to extra time, and made it to penalties, this would have been an infamous moment in English women's soccer history, and it still could end up being it if they, really, really end up missing LJ in the next coming weeks. So we will see what happens, but England advances as well. Australia. Sam Kerr is back. A sub, but she's still back. Ford and Hayley Rosso, who has been great this entire tournament for Australia. Get it done for the Lady Roos as they take out Denmark. Pretty cut and dry. Good win. Australia, once again, they've been more efficient. Been very, very efficient. It's been very impressive. Because I think alongside a lot of people, were very concerned about how Australia would do without Sam Kerr. Sam Kerr, arguably the best player on the planet. And they've been fine. For all intents and purposes, they've been fine. So credit where credit's due. Shout out to Australia. That is the Women's World Cup so far in the round of 16. Of course, we'll probably be talking about the quarters next week. Now, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached Roundup. And before I talk Wyndham Championship, we're going to talk WNBA because, listen, Las Vegas Aces have been the team. Okay, there's been 3 stories. Aces, Liberty, Connecticut Sun. Clear-cut best 2 teams. Okay, the Sun, Alyssa Thomas needs to be the MVP. You're leading rebounds, assists, and you're averaging, 16, 14 points? Ridiculous, okay? Absolutely ridiculous. She's been a monster. Connecticut been really good. So shout out to Alyssa Thomas. But for all intents and purposes, this season has pretty much been, it's going to be the Aces and the Liberty in the finals. All right, the super teams. Wow. No Candace Parker, but still, oh my goodness, did the New York Liberty put it on the Las Vegas Aces. 99-61 to give the Aces their 3rd loss. Only their 3rd loss this year, which is ridiculous. But hammered them. 50-17 in the second half. They only scored 17 points, the Aces did, in the second half. It was, insane. I went in looking at this at halftime. I was like, yo, this is a pretty close game. And then they got throttled. I was in disbelief looking at the score. Sabrina Ionescu, her, 31-5-7. Brianna Stewart, Stewie had a terrible first half, came back with a vengeance in the second half. 23-6-5, 3 blocks, 3 steals. Jonquel Jones had a double-double, 12 and 14. The Aces, I have nothing good to say because that was a dreadful for Kelsey, for everybody. Jackie, everybody. Asia, everybody. Chelsea, everybody. It was a dreadful second half. Only scoring 17 points is insane. All right, the box score doesn't look real. But yes, the Liberty make a statement. Say, yes, there is more than one super team, and there is more than one contender. This is not just a foregone conclusion. We got something brewing in the WNBA. We'll be keeping our eye on that to see what happens. Of course, here in the 3-6, here in the borough, we had the Wyndham Championship. This week. Lucas Glover clinched his spot into the FedEx Cup Championship, or playoffs, should I say, with a win here at Wyndham, 20 under. Him and Herschel pretty much fought all weekend. He closed it out very well. I think, 18 years or something? Somebody said, or 15 years between wins, which is crazy. But yeah, shout out to Lucas Glover. Very good win. Heartbreak for JT. Justin Thomas misses the birdie he needed. That would have got him into the playoffs. So yeah, no FedEx Cup playoffs for JT. Heartbreak. But happiness in the 3-6 for Mr. Glover. Congratulations on the Wyndham Championship. Alright, and if you thought I was done with footy, you were wrong. Okay? Arsenal play Man City in the Community Shield. First trophy of the year. We're back. Alright, we're back. European football is back. Man City is still hungover. Okay? Arsenal wins on penalties. A lot of penalties. A lot of very important penalties this past week in England and also for the world. Us, England's women's national team, Arsenal, Man City. A lot of penalties. Yeah. Magic happened at Wembley. I'm gonna be honest. For Arsenal, it was low-key some BS. If City fans are fuming about the way this game ended, then that's honestly fair. It was just so unlucky. Okay, Toussaint gets a deflection off Akinche, who did nothing. Not like it was like an own goal like we saw in the game I'm about to talk about. But no, just a deflection own goal in the 11th minute of stoppage time. Sends us to penalties, and then they win 4-1. It was a series of unfortunate events. Man City completely choked this away. And Arsenal, Declan Rice gets his first trophy with the Gunners. And yeah, they get to strike back. They get a little bit of redemption against Man City after just completely choking the Premier League last year. Then again, Man City was pretty clear-cut the best team in the world. Probably likely still are, especially since they just picked up Josko Vardijaw, the best team in the world. Okay, it's ridiculous. Holland should, it's easy. It's easy for Man City. They have a limitless budget, of course, so it's just easy. You got Pep, you got Holland, and a wreath of players. It's just easy for them. All right? But shout out to Arsenal for at least taking a trophy away. Messi. We have talked about the MLS so much these past couple weeks. I guess that's the Messi effect, as they say. They were playing Dallas, FC Dallas, not in MLS competition, however, but in tourney competition. And boy, oh boy, MLS After Dark. Once again, we may not have the best talent, but boy, oh boy, here in America, do we play some very entertaining soccer. And yes, it was a very entertaining game once again. Miami versus Dallas. Own goals, chaos, and of course Messi magic. All right, he scored a brace plus a penalty to save Miami versus Dallas. The first free kick, own goal, makes it 4-3. Then closing moments, not 90th minute, but closing minutes of this game. Messi once again, as he scored his first goal for Inter Miami, gets a free kick to tie the game. Pandemonium erupts. We go to penalties. Messi even gets a penalty. It's just, yeah. And Miami is through. It's ridiculous. It's like I said, he's got 7 goals, by the way, in 4 games now, for those keeping track. But it's like I said, he's still one of the best players in the world. So I'm not surprised that he's, destroying the MLS competition because nobody's on his level. He's making Robert Taylor look like one of the best wingers in the world, honestly. I mean, the chemistry they have is like Neymar quality. So it's just like, I'm not surprised, but yeah, it's fun. It's fun to have him over here in the States and doing what he's doing. It's going to be very interesting to see how far he can dig Miami, who are the worst team standings-wise in the MLS. But yeah, with Busquets, Jordi Alba now, so it's going to be very interesting to see how Inter Barcelona are able to lift that team and how Messi, the GOAT, is able to continue pulling off these moments of magic. Certainly having a much more fun time, even though Ronaldo has scored the past couple games for Nasser. And they've been getting ridiculous amounts of... They just got Sadio Mane. They're throwing money around in Saudi Arabia. Even though that league is getting better, I think Messi's having a lot more fun currently, if you know what I mean. Now, before I close this show, I have to talk about one thing. Unofficial water break, by the way. Unofficial water sponsor of Deer Park. Because y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what time it is. One of the most iconic moments in the history of me doing this show. A lot of people's favorite moment. And one of the moments I put in the 100th episode when I did the cold opening was me doing a rant on super conferences or super leagues. This was back when... I've gone off about super conferences before. But super leagues, okay, when 2 years ago, for whatever God knows reason, besides, just let's be honest, we know, money. Same reason here. They tried to make a super league, and I thought it was stupid, and I called them all types of crazy names, okay? Very legendary moment. Go watch episode 100 if you want to see the gist of that. Here we are again, August 7th, 2023. It's 12:45 p.m. We are here once again. College football, it is your turn. NCAA, it is your turn to get reamed. Okay? Oregon and Washington are going to the Big Ten, and Colorado is going to the Big 12, which essentially leaves the Pac-12 with 4 teams. Which, let's be honest, the Pac-12 is now dead. Okay? It is dead. We now have, essentially, in this sport... 2 super conferences after this coming year, and then the ACC, and we'll see who poaches the ACC because it's inevitable. Or maybe they'll combine with the Big 12. Who knows? Geographics clearly don't matter anymore. And as much as people, Colin Cowherd wants to come up here and say, this is good for the sport, as much as these talking heads on ESPN, on Fox, on NBC, or even the NCAA themselves try to spread, or even the schools try to spread this propaganda, all of this talk about how this is good for the sport. We're going to have primetime matchups every single week. You'll get to see the teams you want to see face off every single week. As much as they continue to tell you this, I am here to tell you and here to tell them that once again, super conferences are the stupidest idea ever, and I said that the most juvenile way I could have described it. It's just stupid. It's stupid. It's so idiotic. But I mean, at least it's pretty clear. It is pretty clear that the only thing y'all care about is this short-term profit that y'all are going to get over the nice little TV deal that ESPN, NBC, or CBS, or whoever is sending you in return for making these super conferences because they think this is going to drive up ratings. This might drive up ratings for maybe a year or two, and then it is dead. It is dead. I promise you, it is dead. Honestly, first off, let's go from a cultural perspective, right? Super conferences. One of the great things about college sports, and of course I'll talk about football more prominently because that's why they're doing it, let's be honest. And that's the money sport. If you did not know, football is the money sport, okay? It is the money sport. It probably makes up for most NCAA teams, by the way, run in the red. If your team makes any type of money, it's off of football. If you did not know that, here's this information, okay? So I'm going to talk a lot about college football when I talk about this or in the context of this. But here's why this just is just so stupid. From a cultural perspective, college football is built off of the rivalries, right? It's built off of these geographical, that was the great thing about the conferences, is these geographical locations. You know, here in North Carolina, you got Duke, Carolina State. We all hate each other, but we love each other because it's a rivalry and it's built. It's a cultural thing here in the state. That goes for pretty much every state. USC, UCLA, Texas, Oklahoma, right beside each other. Cultural rivalry, geographical rivalry. And you were in a conference with everybody around you, and it just made sense because everybody in your state or everybody around you had that team, and that was their team. And culturally, it was the thing. It was the thing that made college football different, or college sports different from professional sports, was that cultural aspect. That will be lost. It will be lost because the rivalries will disappear. It will be lost because you're now in a conference with people 1,000 miles away that you really do not care about. It will be lost. So we're losing that aspect. But let's be honest. The schools don't care about that. Universities don't care about that. The networks don't care about that. They care about the money. So let's talk money, right? Let's talk money. Because this is what this is about. It's about money. Which, let's be honest, shout out to Wu-Tang, cream. Cash rules everything around me. They're going to make a lot of money in the first year or two of Super Conference, this new Super Conference era. The TV deals will make them a lot of money, which is what the conferences care about. It's what the networks care about. It's what they care about, okay? It'll make them a lot of money. But long term, this is not sustainable, okay? It is not. It is not. It has never, ever been, in whatever model you want to create, it is never sustainable. You know why? Because I'm not going to lie to you. They're not going to be big matchups anymore. You can stuff these super conferences with brand name teams as much as you want. But at a certain point, it's not going to be a big game anymore. Fight on. I love USC. But USC versus Michigan at a certain point, because by the way, I don't know if you schools do not know, but only one of you can win the conference. Only one of you can be top dog. So all of this dominance, which by the way, you are a brand name, not because, and I don't know if this is just hubris, you're not a brand name because you're USC, or you're UCLA, or you're Ohio State, or you're Alabama, or you're Texas, or you're Oklahoma, or whoever you are. You're not that because of you're that school. You're that because of your success, because of your historical success, which you will not have in a super conference. Only one of you can be the team. That team will probably flourish. But for the rest of you, time to get ready at being in the cellar. And once you're in the cellar, as any logical person knows, those tickets don't sell as fast. That fan interest, that dwindles down. As a marketer, the engagement is nowhere near. It's nowhere near what you might hope. And I don't care if I'm seeing Ohio State versus Oregon every week. Ohio State versus Washington. I don't care. If the two teams are not that good, I don't care. You are who you are because you have this status of being this great team. But if you are in a conference with a bunch of great teams, not every team can be great. Not every team can be 12-1. Some of y'all are going to be 6-6. And when you're 6-6 or 5-7 or 3-9 or 2-10, I don't want to hear why can't we get any fans or what happened or why the checks are not hitting the way that they were when this first started. I don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it because that's what's going to happen, because not all of you can be at the top. And all of y'all are used to being at the top. So it's going to be very, very interesting what some of these universities, what some of these schools do when the checks aren't hitting the same, because people aren't interested in watching a 2-10, a 3-9, a 4-7 team, no matter what your name is. It doesn't matter. If you ain't putting up the results, it doesn't matter. It's not a big game. Every week is not a big game. I don't care how many top 25 historical programs you put in the SEC or the Big Ten. At a certain point, it's not going to be a big game anymore, and you're going to lose interest all the same. And the solution to that, what? Creating another super conference with the best of those best? Eventually, that's going to die too. This is going to die. That is why this is stupid. Because short term it makes sense, but long term it's destined to lose. It's destined to lose money. It's destined to lose fan interest. These games won't be big games. The cultural factor will be lost. Y'all are killing college sports as it is. And forget the students. I mean, forget the student athletes, right? Because I'm sure that Rutgers volleyball player just can't wait to fly 10, however, thousands of miles over to Los Angeles, the southern tip of Los Angeles, to play a game, and then supposed to come back and make it in time and be active in school. I'm sure those soccer teams can't wait. Those teams that don't make money and aren't on TV all the time, I'm sure they just can't wait to go across the country and then still are supposed to be a student athlete. I'm sure that makes sense. I'm sure the games, the atmosphere will still hit the same when you're playing in a completely different time zone. A completely different time zone than where your school is based. In your own conference. I'm sure that will still hit the same. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Super conferences will never, ever not be a stupid concept. Will never not. I would love for somebody to sit me down and explain to me 5 good reasons, besides 5 good reasons, why super conferences make any type of sense. For those of you, if you're watching this and you're in favor of super conferences, feel free, please. I might have you on the show. Tell me why. Tell me why super conferences are a good idea. Why it's not a stupid idea. Because I don't see it. I don't see it. We've been talking about this for 3 years now, and I still do not see it. No matter the sport, it never makes sense in any facet, besides the short term. But boy, oh boy, will you learn in this life that the short term is great, but you better think about the long term if you're thinking about anything financially. Which is what this is about, like I said, cream. Don't mask this under y'all trying to do this for the fans, because you're not. Because if you're doing it for the fans, if you were doing it for people, if you're doing it for interest, hell, even for the casual fans, you wouldn't do it. So yes, no surprise here if you've been around the channel. But once again, I think super conferences are the dumbest thing I have ever heard of in my life. And I absolutely detest. I detest that this is the way that we are going in college sports, because it takes away everything that makes college sports beautiful. It takes away everything. Hell, it takes away competitively. Because once again, y'all all can't be the best. Y'all are used to being the best. You can't be the best in one conference. If you're all in one conference, you can't be the best. And I don't want to hear, since I said I was going to talk football, I don't want to hear nothing about no 2, 3, 4-loss team trying to reach in, because y'all going to expand the playoff. That's what's going to happen. Because some of y'all teams that are used to being in the playoff aren't going to make the playoffs anymore. Not even going to have a chance. And you're going to want to expand the playoff. And you will. But I don't want to hear about no 3, 4-loss team. But we played in the hardest I don't want to hear that. That's not excellence. That's mediocrity. I don't want to hear that. You don't deserve to be in the playoff. I don't want to see that. Don't give me that. You want to play with all the big boys? Fine. Deal with the big boy consequences. You want to play the best every week? Deal with the parity and loss of interest, since that's what y'all have decided. Deal with dwindling attendance. Deal with oh my God. It's the dumbest thing. It is the dumbest thing, and I will stand on that till the day I die. Until somebody proves me wrong. And feel free to, please, tell me. Tell me why it's not stupid. Tell me. I will bring you on the show. Tell me why super conferences make any type of sense outside of 1 to 2 years of financial gain. Please, please do. Please do. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded another episode of the 815 Exchange. I hope you guys have enjoyed, because I most certainly did. 157 episodes, 30-year anniversary. Hope you guys are doing well. And without further ado, Ocho, signing off.